Hey guys, this is NCSR from Freight Yard Manager. I've been asked to do a series of videos on various topics with FYM Map, program used for making maps. So today I figured that we would cover how to do yards. This is one of the hardest things to do. Um, Curved yards are one of the hardest things to do, as you can see here on this update for Cincinnati. Norfolk Southern has a curved yard. And then CSX has curved yards as well. So this will cover a bunch of that. I may or may not do the entire map like this. By like this, I mean as recording it. Today, it's really going to be covering how to do yard leads and how I get to the point that I do with map making. So the first thing I do is I make a segment at about the right angle that I need. Not obviously, not literally at a right angle, but at the right angle for the tracks. Usually from 30 to 38 is usually what you'll need for most yards. As you can see, this one here is a 36, and you can see that right here in this the output window, section 3, and the length is 36. Don't know why it says section 3. It's probably above my pay grade. So, without further ado, let's get into this and see if this works. So I just kind of eyeball all the switches in the area, and I try to find an approximate length. And I make it somewhere where I think will be a good starting point. I chose right here on the lead going out. So I click it, and I use this tool right here. Will copy the segment for the exact length, angle, etc., and continually paste it in the direction which the track was drawn. So it does matter which way you start. If you draw it going right or if you draw it going left, it does matter. So click here. Go to click the R-LIN. I don't know what the LIN stands for those of you that might want to know. So go ahead and start clicking. As you can see, it literally quite honestly pastes the segment. So you just keep clicking it to where you need it, and as you can see, the angle is actually pretty close for what we will need. So to make life easy, I come up here, do the same thing. To do what I just did, get rid of that. Click the segment that you want. Click copy, right. Pink is, or not right, but copy to the pink segment, which is the C segment over here. So as you can see, with that light pink is right here. That's the direction the track is going to go. This is the direction of track is very important when it comes to hump yards. This is not a hump yard, not the NS side, CSX is. So whenever you click that, as I mentioned, click the pink one, and then click the up button. This will vary depending on the angle at which you're building the yard. So it may not always be up. It could be, like on here it says to the left, to the right, right in the middle where it's like top right, top left. All depends on the angle at which you build. So same thing, click the segment and draw the segment however far that you need. So I'm going to go a little bit more, probably to about right there. So then I'll do the same thing here. Oop, don't do that. Click and delete that. So if you click V FYM, the V stands for view. So that's how you can see what it'll look like. Alright, so that's out of the way. There's two ways you can do this. You can click D, which is the diverging leg. The D does not necessarily stand for diverging, it's just the D segment. So to build off of this right here, with the track going this way, with the way we're building this is going left, right to left, you're going to want to click the D segment, come up here, and place it. Now, how I find the alignment is I just place it wherever I need to, and I get it lined up. You can see right there where it's starting to poke out a little bit. That's where you want it. Don't click off of it. So you're going to want to hit the arrow key 5 times because the minimum spacing in FYM for tracks is 5. So we're up to 5. Now you can see it changed to 38. So this will throw things off just a little bit. I build that way sometimes, but to make sure the yard lead is spaced the way you need it, you can come up here and do that. You can see the diverging leg doesn't quite match the track. But every one of those segments will be correctly spaced, so you can have all your intermediary tracks at 5 pixels apart. The other way to do this is to quite literally come over here, do the exact same thing we did, and copy all of these tracks up. For curved yards, there's not really a good way to do it. I try to build from the outside in, or the inside out, depending on the yard. Other yards I build from the outside in, like this one. There's not really a way that I have for preference. It's just whatever I happen to choose. So I know that's not really all that helpful, but hopefully it gives some insight as to how I go about this. And as you guys, those of you who do decide to move forward with map making, you'll understand exactly what I mean by that. As you start to build, you'll be able to look at maps and figure out where you need to place tracks, the angle that you need, the approximate switch size that you'll need. You won't have to use the prefabs, and what I mean by prefabs is down here, the XOP tool. These are all pre-made sections or lengths. So the 40, it will, once you build it, it will create a 40. 3 sections of 40. Really good for making crossovers, even better for making yards sometimes. That only works really if you need a 40 segment or a 35 or a 30 or any of the prefabs. More often than not, I find myself between 30 and 37, sometimes 33. So a lot of switches that I do use are ones that are not prefabs, unfortunately. So same thing. Just click however far you need. So a lot of this is obviously going to be watching. I'll try to include some commentary if I find something that's relevant. So I go about halfway, generally speaking. I'll come over here and I'll build this way to about where I need it and see how it's going to look. A lot of this is trial and error, but it's looking like this might be the right segment. If not, then you go back and rebuild it. This is extremely time consuming. Sometimes you get it right on the first try, other times it takes you hours to get the right segment, depending on how the yard is built. Yards like this where they're at an angle and you can't angle it any other way just because of the way the map's built. Like if I wanted the Norfolk Southern yard more horizontal, which would be easier for building, the CSX yard would be at an angle, and I would much rather build the hump yard at a 90 degree to where the actual yard itself is flat because of the way you build the yards and the switches that are involved. It's starting to look like this angle is actually off for what we're going to need. Sometimes that's okay. It really just depends on the yard and what you can't get away with. There are certain yards that no matter how you build them, they will not line up with the imagery, and that's just the nature of the beast with this. But yeah, it's starting to look like this may not be the right choice, and that's totally cool. So to build the diverging legs, you can click the button over here. It says D, or you can do what I do, and I use Control D, and you want to click that segment right here every time, or you won't be able to build the switches the right way. And this actually looks like it might work out in my favor. I'm hoping so, anyway. Yeah, so we're going to have a little discrepancy right here. Might be able to fix that. So, that's what it looks like. And as many of you know, that is not the way switches look. So you come up here, click the switch you need, or the leg of the switch that you need, and you're going to want to use the swap legs tool. And you just keep doing that to manually or automatically, out of convenience rather, to go from each switch like that without having to click. All you do is press Control F. Don't hold it, but press Control F, and it'll go to the next segment in line. So now when we go back to FYM, you can see that every switch is the way that it should be. So now if you want to see if they work, you go here, and then go to the SOP, and this is this will show you how the switches will work in real time. So as you can see, all the switches are the way they're supposed to be. So now, you got to go to the other side and do the lower half. Same thing, like I said, I build my yards pretty consistently every time. I'm sure there's other ways to do this that other map makers like Ken or Robert or anybody else that you guys know that makes maps, I'm sure they have ways that they prefer making yards. This is the way that I prefer it. Gets me consistent results every time and ensures me that my yard tracks are going to be the right size and all be uniform. There are situations where you will not have uniform tracks, and that, again, that's just the nature of the build. And as a side note, the longest switch that we can have is generally 40 pixels. So we do allow instances where there are 45s. That is up to the discretion of a map reviewer. I generally allow it because I've found that sometimes it's easier to just use big switches like that than it is to have a smaller switch. And then we'll leave that right there. That little tail, we'll end up getting rid of it. But that just allows me to build from the side that I need to build on. And once again, the angle looks like it'll be okay, but it may not be. But with the way the endpoints right here, those yellow dots are endpoints, it looks like it's going to work out the way that I need it to. Generally speaking, another tip for those here is you want your switches to be all the same size. There are a lot of instances, if I haven't mentioned it, I'm sure that I will cover things multiple times, and I'm sorry if that irritates any of you guys. But, yeah, there are times that you will not be able to have the switches all the same size. That's okay, as long as it's not, like, egregious. But I've made maps where I can't make the switches all the same size, and that's just the nature of map making. But again, for my goal for today is to show you guys how I build this yard in its entirety. I don't mean the entire yard or the entire map. I mean the Norfolk Southern side, ideally just Guest Street yard. Probably won't do the intermodal terminal, at least not in the video. And I'll do the top ramp track right here, just because it does tie in with the actual yard itself. And I know this question is going to come up. How do you build imagery? That will be another video that I plan on doing. This project was kind of spur of the moment, so that's why I didn't do a build video on the imagery. I understand that the imagery is one of the hardest parts of this outside of track building, if not the hardest part, because of the scale. If you don't get the scale right for the imagery, then yeah, you can't even get to this part. So this part right here is where things are going to get a little tricky. And it's really no big deal. Just going to line up the tracks like this. And then delete what I don't need. And I need one right there. So, once again, that's how it looks. And the look we're going for is uniformity in this. Again, it's not, you can't do that all the time. Totally understandable. It just depends on the yard. So again, Control D will allow me to get the switch size that I need in the direction that I need it. So move my segment up 5. The R-LIN will allow me to do that, to have the correct size, which is 36, or the choice size that I'm using. And then go to Control D, or you can just click the D button to get the segment that you need. And then click right here behind it. You don't want to click this, even though that is part of the switch. That's the leg that you need. You want to click behind it. And as you can see, the switch will work. I will, once again, demonstrate that as I have before. And then to get the right one that I need, click right here. You can see that's the light blue. That is the diverging leg. And that is not only the diverging leg, that is the normalized leg. So like up here, the pink leg is the normal leg for the switch. The dark pink is the diverging leg. And so you can see the normal position for the switch is right up the ladder as it should be. So, same thing. This one changed. So I'll just go ahead and do that. So you can see right here, it went from green to blue. Click the next one, go to pink. Then I use the Control D. So now all of these will need Control D all the way down. And then this one, the ones you can't do that. So you watch down here, and where it says output 354, segment 354, track length 36. So 36 is what we need. So we're good. And they use the C segment because that's the one we need. And I'm not going to be able to build this that segment the way that I want, so I will come up here and use that tool once again, and Control D to tie it in there. Alright, let's see how it looks. So, same thing as before. Obviously, you guys saw me change this one manually. So go to VFYM, click it again to go back into build mode, or not build mode, but the, I guess it is build mode, but to where you can see where all the endpoints are. And then click the swap legs, Control F to move down the lead. And you can see right there the normal is moving, and since that one is the right way, just going to skip it and go to the next one. And there we go. There's that. So that's how the yard looks so far, and it's always good to double check your work. So you click the SOP, and you can see all the switches work the right way. So now something else you guys might want to do is the SCK. This will show you if any switches are malformatted, like if one leg is too long, and again, that's okay. It just depends on the switch. I know there's a lot of guys who don't want any of the SCKs at all, and ideally, you don't want any SCKs at all. But it is unavoidable. Sometimes you cannot avoid it. So now that we know that works, I'm going to open Google Map. You guys probably won't be able to see on your end, but I do know there are some crossovers that I am missing. But I just want to verify where they are before I just go throwing them in. So I am missing one right here. just to make sure again. And I don't like this on the imagery. There's actually, that one's actually right there. So we'll go with that. Another tidbit of information for everybody that is watching is for every 5 tracks you lose one. So if you have a 10-track yard, you lose, it should be about 2 tracks. Sometimes it just depends because not all yards are built the same. Some are very close clearance, some are not. So that takes into consideration too, but generally speaking, for every 2 you lose one, or every 5 you lose a track. So there we go. That switches in, and then there is another one up here farther up the lead. So right about there is where we'll need it. This one is the same way, Control B. And then there is also another one right about in here. So I'll just extend that down to where I feel comfortable with it. And then I'll go ahead and build this switch too to give myself an idea. And then I need to extend that just a little bit, so I give myself room to actually build the switch. So same thing, you can see the switches are working there. Go to the SOP, you can make sure that all the switches work. Something else to make sure all your tracks are connected, that is very valuable, is click DT. DT means dead track. So if the track's not connected to anything, you'll see a bunch of yellow segments. Or flashing yellow, rather. You can see every dead track. And the dead track just means it's not connected to anything. You'll have a bunch of dead ends will obviously show that, industry spurs, anything that's not connected. So you really, really, really want to watch that. This area I'm not too convinced is going to work the way I want it to, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So for this lead right here, I use the copy tool and just line it up. Then you can use the R-LIN, click it a bunch of times to get it where you need it. Oh, that's another good point I should share with you guys. This swap right here. You can see it turns 2 different colors. So when it's blue, it's going to move the blue track. When it's pink, it's going to move the endpoint associated with the pink track. And I don't have a rhyme or reason on how I pick stuff to work on. I just pick it. I know that's not the greatest answer in the world, but I mean, that's what I do. I just pick things to work on. So there's that. You can see those are formatted correctly. However, this one needs swapped. So now that one is facing the right way. Alright. So to try to get this bottom track in, you're going to want to watch that as well. The section length, you really ideally want to keep these all the same. If I had to guess, this other side's good. By the way it looks like it might be closer to 40. To figure this out, it's just trial and error. You just go do exactly what I'm doing. You keep the segment that you need, make sure the length matches up, and you just try to mimic the imagery. You can see right here, not really going to plan. So you just move it as you need to. And you can see right here there's another track that we need, so I will go like this. and then copy down. And then same thing as before. Change your switch direction, the normalized position. And with this, you won't see me do the copy tool too much. You will mostly see me doing this, watching the segment length and the tracks themselves, because a 37 may not work over here, as I was mentioning. You might have to go to a 40. If I was a betting man, I would say probably a 40 is what we're going to need for this side. But I won't know until I start actually building more of the track. But I could be surprised. I've made assumptions like that when building, and it works out better than I thought. And then I don't need those super long segments. And if you run into issues like I'm having now and you're not sure on if it's lining up, you can always, like I said, and do that. That way you'll get the track exactly where you need it. Based on this angle, how it is right now, I don't think this is going to line up. I think we're going to be probably a pixel too shallow, or not shallow, but 1 pixel down than what we need. And if that's the case, then I'm going to have to start to relay a bunch of track. So this can get rather irritating rather quickly, especially on big yards. Yeah, you can see right there how it's starting to dip down a little bit. So in this case, I don't like what I'm seeing. So I'll bump the track back 1. So, like I said, I thought we were going to need 40s. We could end up needing 35s. The perspective in this game, the angle stuff can really throw things off to where it'll make you think you need a different segment. And the way this is lining up right now, you can see it actually does look like I need 35s instead of the 36s that we were using over here. Yeah, that's lining up way better. And you can see right there, I forgot that I was using 35s. So that happens from time to time, but you can see right here where it's starting to veer off a little bit, and that's leading me to believe that I'm going to need something else other than a 35. The angle of the track, too, looks like I might not be right. But, again, we'll see once we get there. Just the way it goes. Yeah, it's a lot of it's trial and error. It's very rewarding, though, once you actually see a map that you've done and contributed to the game actually in the game and doing the thing, doing what maps do. Yeah, I'm not liking the angle of that at all. So something I might do right now is do that. That'll give me, yep, you can see that right there. That angle is not right. So we are going to need something longer. So without erasing all my work, I'll come down here and I'll grab a 40. And that might be right. So yeah, right there. That is almost the exact angle that we need. So the nice thing is, I can just come in here and delete all my work. I know that doesn't sound nice, but so these are 40. Okay, those are 41s. That's right. So we'll come in here and we'll try with the 40 segment to see if we can just get away with using the 40s instead of the 41s. And it looks like we might be able to. Again, this is all trial and error. So when you're doing this, you really want to pay attention to how the track is interacting with the image below. Yeah, this angle might be tolerable. It's not really what I want, but we'll see. This might be one of those instances where I have to build with split switches, and what I mean by that is where you take two individual lengths to make a switch instead of the process I've been showing you where you build off one. You'll actually have two segments on the switch for each leg. Oh, that one's one off. There we go. There were a couple off in there. And you can see that right there, how the sharp angle is just not to my benefit right now. I'm still going to try to make it work. I'm pretty sure that I can. But we'll see. I'm not so sure because this part right here, the upper side of the yard, I do know that 40s are going to be way too long for that. So I might just go back to the idea I mentioned earlier of using smaller segments for switches. It's a much more complicated build, but sometimes you can get better results out of it. Something else cool that I found out, if you do this and click up and keep clicking up, or whatever angle it says, it will automatically connect all those tracks for you, so you don't have to click the R-LIN tool like I tend to do, and that's more so habit. So same thing, just to repeat, and then always save. Because I have had this program crash on me, or just not save in general. Or, say your power goes out. But yeah, always save. Make sure that you save. There's nothing that will kill a project faster for you wanting to get it done than if you don't save and you lose all your progress. Yeah, you can't do that there. Yep. See, I messed up right there. So now I have to go around and check and just copy that over. And then I'll start to fill these in. I normally don't do this if I see that it's not going to line up the way that I want. Um, since I'm not too sure yet, I'm obviously building this with you guys to see how this is going to work, because even I'm not sure. I run into situations all the time where I think something's going to work and then it doesn't. Alright, so I believe that's all we can do for there. So it's looking good for the most part. Like I said, I don't like the angle right here. I don't think this is going to let me do what I need to do, or would like to do with this. It's still lining up pretty decently, though. It's really starting to change over here, and I don't like that. So I think what I'm going to do is start to move everything down, and I know how inconvenient that is, especially for as long as I've been doing this, and that's why you don't just delete everything. Because as you can see, by deleting everything, it doesn't solve the problem. And by solve the problem, I mean seeing that moving this segment down doesn't solve the problem. Like up here, it looks like it would, but it actually doesn't. So I guess to see if I'm going to continue this, I will go and try to build the actual switches themselves and see how the ladder is going to line up. Yeah, see, that's not so sure how I feel about that. So to do this, let's go right there. But this might work. Like I said, I've been in all kinds of situations where I think something's not going to work and it actually does. So that's a lot closer than I thought. I can work with that. Yeah, that's definitely workable. And there's a lot of things that you can do to fix angles of tracks. Or if you need to shift the angle of it, it's a lot easier to do. So hopefully this is making any sense. If anybody does have any questions and they need to reach out, feel free to email me. My email can be found on Freight Yard Manager on the game under the player contacts. I will respond as I can. I do not have Discord. I have it. I just don't have it on my computer. If you guys do need one-on-one help, I am more than willing to try to help you to the best of my ability as my time permits. I would love to be able to pass on the knowledge that I've learned over my journey of map making, because I'm not going to be here forever. So it would be nice to teach everybody in the community that wants to learn this how to do this, because like I said, what if for whatever reason I'm not involved with the game anymore? I would still like to see it continue, especially well after I'm physically not here. So, yeah, I'm not the best teacher. I can show people how to do stuff. I like to think that I can show people how to do things, but I can't give you step-by-steps. I can only show you how I do things, as obviously I've done here. So hopefully, like I said, hopefully this is making sense. But if anybody needs like one-on-one help through Discord or TeamViewer, whatever, Discord would probably be better because you have the voice chat and everything. I'm more than willing to help people be able to do this. It's not hard. It's just time consuming, and it is a rather steep learning curve. So now that I'm happy with that, I will go back to Google and start looking at some of the other track in the area, especially down here, since this is the track gets kind of funky down there. So for this, to tie in all these yard tracks, I will copy that down and then over, just to get it lined up. You can see it's not meshing very well. Hopefully I'll be able to cover how you can get around that. That's the plan, because like I said, I want to at least get the NS yard done, not necessarily the car shops, but the yard itself, because this is where a lot of the meat and potatoes is of map building. Because if you can build a yard, especially a yard like this at an angle that's also curved and has goofy ass ladders on the other side, the car shop, that's baby stuff. You absolutely no problem doing that. You can see right now I'm just moving the track up. It doesn't necessarily mean that's where it's going to stay. That's just the area that I would like it in. And then since all these are switches, just going to start building and using the copy tool. Again, nothing too complicated. This area right here, I'm probably not going to be able to use 40s. So probably be cut down. So since I know there's a switch there, I'll go ahead and throw in the switch too, just to get that out of the way. So since this one is a weird angle, and you can see if you look on Google Maps, you will see exactly what I'm talking about. With the angle of the switches, those switches are actually smaller. Like I'm saying, those will probably be closer to 35s than a 40. But yeah. So speaking of that, I'll go ahead and delete those. I'll leave that one as a 40 for sure, just for uniformity. So you can go here. You can see that switch right there will need to be fixed. So you just use the swap tool. And as you can see, it's now the right way. So I try to keep everything the same. I'm going to go with 35s here, I think. Maybe go with 36. Yeah, probably 35 given the angle. As you can see, that's lining up just a little bit better. You can see right here, this is one of the instances where things may not line up, where it says it's a 40 on this side and a 37. Again, that's one of those instances where you're going to have that. This is pretty much what I do. A lot of trial and error with a lot of this. But like I said, it's very rewarding to actually see something that you've done go live in the game, and then hopefully actually get to run it. That's what I always recommend, is if you're going to do map revisions or new project builds, make sure that's something that you want to do. Being the coordinator for maps as the game as a whole, that obviously is not sustainable a lot of the time, because our open maps dictate whether or not we can have new stuff. We can always replace maps with other maps, for sure. But new maps, yeah, that really just depends on the open maps currently available in the game. If there's a bunch of open stuff, we're obviously not going to be able to throw a bunch of new maps into the game because we have to be able to run them too. So that should give me the right angle for that switch to go actually into the car shops. There's probably going to be some fine tuning right here to get the track spacing a little better. Probably right there. So minimum space between switches, the legs is 2. Ideally, you don't want that. There are certain instances where 2 is what you can get. It's what you need so you can make the transitions. So since I'm pretty content with how this is going, every 5 tracks, or 4, you have to have a main line. I may have said that wrong. You'll see what I mean here in a minute. So I'll wait until I have the yard more done before we get into that. It'll make a lot more sense. It's the same thing. Just keep doing that. I'm not sure how long this video is going to take. So I would definitely watch this when you actually have the time. I don't know what we're at right now. We're at almost an hour, 47 minutes. So now, as you can see, since those are connected, life just got a little bit easier for this. So now we can start actually clicking this, using the copy tool. Whoops. Didn't mean to do that, so something ain't right. I'll just go ahead and delete those just to play safe in case there are any segments that are not where they're supposed to be. You can see I'm still getting into the habit of being able to do this using the copy track tool like that. I just found out about this like within the past couple builds that I've done on accident. So I'm still trying my best to make that a habit when I'm building, instead of having to R-LIN everything. This kind of speeds up the process just a little bit. And as you can see, the yard is now almost done. The only thing that we have left to do is the yard ladders on the other side, and obviously connecting these tracks right here. Oh, I built one too high. That happens. And I think that might be a stub track. It is not. Okay. So I was just looking at the image wrong then. Alright. So. Here comes the fun part. Because now obviously you can see where the discrepancy is, where the angle of the track's not exactly right. I will start to move this segment just a little bit. The one I need to get right is this one, the middle, and I don't think I'm going to be able to do it right off. So then I'll come down here, I'll start with the bottom one if I don't think I'm going to be able to do it, and I will try to get the angle right where I need it, which looks like it's going to be about right there. So then I'll always reference Google. Always reference Google Maps, especially when building yards. And especially when there's like a ton of track in the area, like a really condensed area like this. So same thing. Life made easy. And as you can see, the angle's still not exactly right yet. I need to angle the track down just a little bit more to get the track count right. I don't like how this is going up here, so I'll just back it off for the time being, and I'll go ahead and get my third track in there. This part's probably going to be pretty slow going, just because of the nature of it. A lot of cross-referencing to Google Earth and playing with track segments to try to put a band-aid on the lack of alignment with the imagery just because of how the yard's built. So in big yards like this, or really anywhere where there's just a ton of track, I work very, very, very slow. Not slow, but I work slow in small areas, just to make sure, because if you get the track count wrong over here, then that's going to matter once you get down here to the other end of the yard where where everything ties in together, the departure tracks, the NS tracks. When it all ties in, that's where it's really going to matter. And then now, just to make my life a little bit easier, I'll put in this track right here as part of the CSX, that green one. So that's just like a placeholder for me, and I'll probably build out with that going north. Alright, so now we're back down to this end of the yard. So now down here, there's a lot more switches. So I do know before I bring these tracks in, there is a crossover. So I'll use this one right here, delete that, and then tie that in right there. So put that crossover in. And then we'll build out like that, and then tie this in right there. There we go. So then you'll see me. You guys probably won't see it on your end, but on my end, I'm always going back and forth between Google, especially if there's like I said, a cramped area like this, or just a lot of track to begin with. I'll sit there and I'll just constantly reference Google. Okay, and that's where the track change is at. So get that lined up, and that's probably going to be about a 3, if I had to guess, to get the angle right. And by 3, I mean pixels. So you can see there's a little jag right there. We'll fix that too. And since I know there's a switch right there, I'll go ahead and put that there. Ah, wait, I think I messed up. Okay, yeah, so this one doesn't need to be there, that's what I'm saying. So always a good idea to reference what you're doing. So I will see how this looks rather. Yeah, so we'll I guess we'll probably leave it like that. Maybe not. I'm not so sure that I enjoy that. I don't think that I do. So what I'm gonna do is get rid of this segment, that one, and that one, and that one, and then start over. So then this needs to go right there. Yeah, I like that just a little bit better. So then we'll go there. Then tie that track in. And then that one. But I still don't like that just because of the way it's connecting. Alright, yeah, I don't like that. So we'll get rid of that. and I'll just use the R-LN tool to find something that I do like. This is probably going to be right there. Yeah, we'll leave it with that. And then we'll start on the next track up. Then we'll get rid of this crossover right here actually and move it back. Move it back one. Yeah, that looks better. Alright, so now we'll focus on the next track up. So the next track up actually ties into the third track. I was placing this one right here. So with that in mind, I'll just use this tool and do my best with it. There we go. So there's that. And then constantly referencing Google, like I mentioned. You can see that there's another crossover right here. So we'll throw that crossover in. Oops, wrong one. Yeah, you can't do that. So don't do that. So put that back down there. But the crossover does need put in. So just to double check, start it right there, and then over. Well, that's too far. To the middle lead right there. So you can see right there, everything's all tied up. And something still ain't looking right about this. So, and it's honestly probably just the angle of the track, me not having everything completed yet. But there is another switch right here, and we can always remove that if it doesn't line up the way we need it. So there's that. Alright, so now I am going to focus on getting the rest of the yard built. So I mentioned before I wasn't sure if the angle of the track, not the angle, but the segment size, if it was going to be what I needed. But it looks like I was thankfully wrong on this one. So same thing, just make sure that all your diverging legs are set to the right angle, or not the right angle, but the right direction that you need. And then I need one more. So this one will have to be switched to. And then it looks broken, but go back into view and you can see that it works. So just to make sure that everything's good still, switch SOP and you can see all the west side, or the north side of the yard is actually functioning the way it should as far as switches. And then take it a step further. CT is short segments. You don't want any of those either. Anything under 10 pixels will start flashing. So you don't want anything under 10. And then dead track, you can see, like I mentioned earlier, all the dead tracks. And there's none in the yard except for the leads that we haven't finished. Or the ladder that we haven't finished. Actually, I don't even need that one, I don't think. Yeah, that's got to be up there. So this will go back, because I know it's going to have to be back there. Alright, so now, I'm going to go with this side. And this side is, if I had to guess, it's probably going to cause problems. I'm almost willing to bet that the angle for this is not going to be right, especially with the how the yard lead's set up. But I hope I'm wrong, because I really don't want to have to redo a yard ladder. Yeah, I think I'm going to be wrong. Because that's the sharp ladder compared to the other ones that we've had to do. But we'll see. Who knows? Like I said, could be wrong. Hope I'm wrong. Yeah, see, it's getting a little bit tight right there for the application. So, if I had to guess, probably not going to be able to continue with that. But I'm going to try. Ah, see, yep, there's the problem. So with the way these are set up, I actually did them wrong. So this one, they're set up right, like the idea is right, but the yard lead itself is not right, or the ladder tracks are not right. Okay, so this one needs to go right there. So then I can tie this in there, and then try it again. But going based on how it is now, I'm pretty positive I'm not going to be able to make it work the way that I want to, given the spacing. Because you can already see right there, like, that is huge. That is the farthest that can be away. So, with that being said, this is going to get a lot more interesting. Just because of the fact that we're into that problem that I'm talking about, where the yard leads are different. Oops. But yeah, hopefully this is making sense. Like you guys are following along with the process. This is the way that I go about things. Not necessarily the way that you have to go about it. This is just the way that I'm tackling this situation. And there's, multiple ways to do things. It's really just about finding what works best for you and your build style. So it looks like I'm going to need 35s, and it looks like it might give me the angle that I need as well. Yeah, it's going to preserve the 5 pixel spacing at least. If it is off, it's off by such a minuscule amount that it really won't matter too much. So hopefully this will give me what I need to be able to make the yard ladder. It looks like it will, but yet to be determined. So at least there's an idea of what's going on. I may not be able to do it. I might have to go even smaller. So it'd be like a 35 or a 30-ish maybe, or something close. But yeah, this right here is not ideal. So we're still coming into the same problem. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But we're getting closer to finding the segment. If I had to guess, could be even smaller. Because you can see it's just you gotta have that the right angle. If you don't have the right angle, you're never gonna be able to build the yard. I could surprise myself with this though, but I don't think so. I really don't think this is going to give me the room that I need. Yeah, because yeah, we'll see. I might still be able to get it to work. I still think that maybe I might need a better segment size though. Yeah, you can see right there. I really need to go right into that one, and I can't. So I think I'm going to retry it again. Yeah, it's just not gonna work the way I want it to. I don't think. I'd really like it to. I might see if I can try to squeeze the track in a little bit more because I really don't want to rebuild it. So there's 5. Oh, it's not great. It's not great, but it's not horrible. Still be able to might make it work though. See if I can mess with the segments a little bit because I only need a couple more tracks. If I can get a couple more tracks, that would be ideal. Yeah, see, it's just not. It's close, but I don't want the track to like bloom out a whole lot. Still gonna try it. I think I can do it. But so right there. Let's see. Might be close enough, or well, good enough. It's close. It's not great, but it's close. I don't like that in here though, so I might try to adjust the track a little bit more to get it the angle that I want, make it a little bit more appealing and up to FYM standards. Okay, so it's not great, but for me it's passable. I wouldn't have an issue with somebody submitting this in. At least for now. There's a lot of times where I will go, yeah, that looks good, and um, yeah, and then I go back and throughout the build, I'll go back and change it. It's really not uncommon for me to change my mind on a build that I'm doing and decide that I don't like it anymore. Yeah, you can see I'm back to over here messing around with this now. Um, if I had to guess, that's probably going to change. I don't like how that's laid out. It does not do it for me. Well, we'll mess with it in a little bit. I'm just gonna let it sit there and marinate. See if maybe I have a change of heart over it. I doubt it. Usually when something bothers me like that, I will go back and rebuild it or continue to mess with it until it is up to what I consider acceptable for myself. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna mess with that a little bit more. I don't like it. I don't like the way it looks. And it's entirely possible it ends up looking. I end up moving everything back, and it ends up looking like exactly the way it did before. That's happened countless times with projects. When I build them, is I'll decide like you guys are seeing now. Oh, I don't like that, and I'll go and change it. And I don't like the change, and then I'll go back to the way it was before, and decide that the look that it had before was much more acceptable. Yeah, I don't like that. It just looks bad. It's just not acceptable for my standards that I have set forth for myself when producing maps for the game. So back to the drawing board. If I had to guess, like I was saying before, I'm pretty sure it's gonna be something closer to 30 that I'll need to actually get the switches right. So this is going on way longer than I thought. Totally okay. We're at an hour and 30 minutes. So I won't be editing this, so you guys can watch it in real time as I'm doing it, so you can see how I'm going about it. Because watching me think in real time and actually work through these problems will probably give you a lot more insight than actually like me going through and cutting clips out of it and only showing you the stuff that I think you uh, should watch. I think watching the whole process is probably more valuable. So I actually ended up deciding to go with a 29. Because my whole goal is to keep the spacing between the tracks as close as I can get to 5 pixels, not under at all by any means. But yeah, close to 5 pixels as you can get when doing this, especially when you're having to use different segment lengths. And the way this is starting to look, it looks like I'm going to have a much easier time doing it like this. And like this, I mean with 29 length instead of a 30 or a 35. Because the 30, if you saw when I put a 30 down, it did not the angle didn't line up with a 30, but I moved it back to a 29, and the angle was much better. Give myself a little bit more wiggle room on that side. And sometimes you have to fiddle with the track so you can do what you need to do. And by doing that, I give myself just a little bit more room. So I'm pretty okay with the angle right now that I'm going with this. You can see now it's starting to get a little tight again, so I might even have to go smaller. It's all, like I was mentioning, it's all trial and error. Especially yards like this. Anything curved or smaller with a, I believe that's a compound yard ladder, is a lot harder to make. Okay, so there's that. That looks like that's gonna do it. Hopefully, it looks a lot better than before. There's still a few hiccups in there that I don't really care for, but pick your battles, and that's not one that I really want to pick right now. Yeah, that's gonna have to be good enough. I'm okay with it. It's not my favorite, but it's It's not infuriating. It's not um, really going to cause any issues. But I am going to add in that other track since you can see it up there. And this is where you're going to run into that issue where the segments just don't line up. So hopefully with any luck that'll be bigger than a 10. So it's an 11, good enough. Yeah, anytime you can recoup tracks like that, because like I mentioned before, you lose tracks every 10 or every 5, you're going to lose one. So like track 6 won't exist. So in a 10 track yard, in theory, you'd have 8. So back over to here. Like I mentioned, I'm probably going to do that the intermodal track. So to try to compensate for the railroad crossing right there and just the way the yard's built, I'm going to have to compensate just a little bit. Or not compensate, compromise. Just a little bit, which is fine because on imagery it doesn't look like they use the whole track for loading anyway. I could be wrong. I'm sure that somebody will correct me, and that's totally cool. But yeah, where the power pylon is, which is about right here, probably put the railroad crossing right here and have everything after that be loading and unloading. So it really shouldn't affect too much. Okay, the angle's off on that. So I guess something else I should note is when you're doing curves, use larger segments. Like you'll see that if I do a video building the connection right here, you'll see what I mean. Or not that one. That one you're gonna have to use smaller. But this connection right here, the CSX, it's not really a connection, but the CSX right here, you're gonna want to use longer segments for broader curves. You don't use small ones. If you use smaller ones, the curve is gonna look blocky, and you're never gonna get a smooth transition through the curve. But this is how the yard looks so far. So you got a few problem switches right here, and they really just need the direction changed for the diverging leg. So there we go. That's pretty much the yard. I'm gonna go through it again, just to make sure I'm not missing any switches. At least on that side. Okay, that's pretty much it for that. So I'll go here, load and unload, and select the car types that you need. And then Control F will go the direction in which the track was built. And that's the unloading track. The loading and unloading track for intermodal. Intermodal does not have to be numbered. So what I'm doing right now is trying to figure out where my mainline tracks need to be, and not a literal mainline, but the red spacer tracks that you see all over maps, splitting up the yards. So I'm not going to be building the receiving yard in this episode. Um, if I even do a build video for the actual yard itself, for the hump yard, I'm just trying to figure out what my spacing is. Because this track down here, that one, is actually a main line, or should be designated as a main line, I believe. I'll have to go back and look at like track charts and everything. Yeah, that's 3 main. So this one will be a main line. And then that track right there, that 5th one will be main line. And then you just keep copying pretty much. Make sure you get your spacing right. And these two don't need to be mains. I'm just copying the track up to make it easier on myself. Okay, that looks right. Then I'm going to reference back to Google just to make sure that is. Okay, so that one's got the next track up that's right beside it. That's what it looked like, but it definitely doesn't hurt to actually make sure. So that's the track spacing for there. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that one will be mainline. So then you have 1, 2. Oh, how do I want to do this? So that'll be 3. I guess it really doesn't matter. It's not going to do what I thought it would do anyway. So I'll go here. So I'll go to 1, 2, 3. Then this one will be a main line. So and then you count up right there. And then I'll use Control F to push the track forward. And then Control R to make it go the other direction. Sometimes you'll have to flip between L and R, or F and R, to get the track segment to go the direction you want it to go. R moves it, Control R moves it towards the blue segment, Control F moves it towards the pink one. And that's pretty much it, guys. So that's how to look in game. That's about what you should be seeing. This is how I built this yard, how I would do it. Obviously, you guys watched me do it. But this is how I went about building a guest street yard. I'm sure there's other ways to do it. This is just the way that I found works for me. So hopefully you guys learned something. Like I said, if anybody has any questions or wants to get into map making and would like a one-on-one or something, maybe there's something you're trying to work through on map making, something you could have better understanding on. Yeah, anything you guys need help with, please reach out. Like you can always email me. Yeah, however you want to get a hold of me. You can message me through the game, send a private message. But yeah, anything you guys want covered. Um, in the future, I'm sure there's a bunch of stuff I can cover on this as to how I would go about building things. I will probably cover how I build hump bowls. I know hump yards aren't really, you know, with the advent of PSR, hump yards are slowly being phased out into the yards that only the railroad deems needed. So as we progress in the game and maps need redone, we could see, hump yards on the decline needing built. This yard is old, like the original map is old. So that's why this one's being redone to add updated trackage and all that super fun stuff. But yeah, anyway, like I said, anything you guys need, want me to cover, request, comments, concerns, possible one-on-one sessions on how to go about things, feel free to let me know. Eventually, I will cover image making because I know that's a really hot topic. But hopefully, like I said, hopefully this gives you insight onto how I go about things and produce the stuff that I do produce for the game. So, like I said, I've got years of experience doing this. And if I can pass my knowledge on to somebody else, or not specifically somebody else, but a group of people or whoever is interested, I would be more than willing to pass on what I've learned to keep this going. I mean, the game is what it is because of the community, and without the community helping, the game ceases to exist and ceases to improve as it has been. So, yeah, like I said, you guys need anything, just feel free to reach out. Anything you want me to cover specifically.